But there's quite a lot that we do in New South Wales Rugby League. In the past, we've run the Harmony Cup, essentially, which is a gala day that's run every year where players in the under-16s and 18s come together, both boys and girls, from their cultural background. So we have, Italy, Lebanon, Maori, Indigenous, Italian. We have, there's 16 to 17, I think, culturally diverse backgrounds that come together to play in that. We also have wheelchair rugby league. We have disability rugby league. So I think one of the sports, in Australia, particularly pushing forward with inclusion and diversity is, rugby league from both Queensland, New South Wales and the NRL. In terms of how important is Indigenous, to rugby league and vice versa, I think, if you look at just under 3% of the population is Indigenous, yet Indigenous players make up close to 12% of the NRL teams. Jamie obviously was there. When we talk in the national team, there was 55% of the national team were Indigenous players, not 12 months ago. Equally, I think when you look back, the opportunity that it gives for Indigenous Australians, whether they're from Burke, Walgett, Armidale, the South Coast, to come together and to play a sport and to connect with their community, connect with their culture, and then also connect with other people that they may not normally run into, is incredibly important. It gives them an opportunity, and everybody on the field's equal. So it doesn't matter where you come from, doesn't matter what you are, doesn't matter where your background is. On the field, everyone's equal. That's a pretty touchy subject at the moment. State of origin, I guess it's, Kylie can vouch it. It's a representative game where players from both the NRLW and the NRL get selected to play based on where they're from. So from New South Wales or Queensland. It started originally back in 1980. So prior to 1980, a lot of players came down from Queensland into New South Wales, and where they were playing the game of rugby league at the time, they got selected to play to represent their state. So it's a representative game. Queensland were a little bit unhappy with that because a lot of their good players were based in New South Wales at the time. So in 1980, they came up with a plan that for one game in 1980, the players would represent the state where they were born or where they played their first representative game. So that's grown to be one of the pinnacles of the game. I think the top 3 broadcast events each year on TV is State of Origin. And then recently, I think Kylie was at 3. This year was the 3rd year of State of Origin for women.
Yes, it was. Yep.
Yeah. And we've been quite successful over the last couple of years in both the men and the women. Unfortunately, this year we weren't as lucky. But essentially, it's grown to be one of the biggest events in our game. And I think most of the players, you have to ask Kylie, but they really aspire to play for the state and then obviously get selected to play for the country from there. And I'd just like to say, before Kylie goes anywhere, she's not going to hang the boots up. Rugby league's a reflection of society. And I think you'll find when you break society down and you see the culture across our city, across our state, across our country, you also see that participation in rugby league. And I think through things like the Harmony Day, a couple of years ago, we had all the cultural backgrounds. They all had shops there, selling food. We all had music. There was festivals. Particularly with the Indigenous, we have camps. We have a few camps a couple of times a year. We have the Indigenous All-Stars. We have an Indigenous Players Camp. But it really comes down to education and respect. Everyone with a culturally diverse background is very proud of where they come from, very, very proud of their heritage. We encourage that. We encourage respect in listening, education, learning. And we allow the players to, and supporters to talk and to work with each other and understand each other's culture. And that's one of the greatest things about rugby league. As I say, if you look at society and you look at New South Wales and Sydney particularly, you look at the diverse backgrounds, you'd find, a majority of those backgrounds are playing our great game.